Hello, everybody. Welcome to the DePIN podcast. I'm your host, Tom Trowbridge. We're excited to bring you interviews with the key founders in the DePIN landscape, investors, and ecosystem partners. This is an exciting time for DePIN, and this year we're going to be meeting even more founders, learning about the projects that they're building, about the traction they're getting, and about the revenue that they're generating. The podcast is brought to you by Fluence. Fluence is building a decentralized compute platform. It's a project I'm a co-founder of and really excited about. So buckle up for this year. Please subscribe to the channel, listen to us on Spotify or Apple. And of course, if you are around any of the large conferences, come to our DePIN Day, where you can meet these founders on the Fluence team in person and hear from all the ecosystem partners as well. So look forward to seeing you in person, and let's get going on this podcast. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the DePIN podcast. I'm your host, Tom Trowbridge. I'm thrilled to be here today with Cathy, COO and co-founder of ARO. Welcome, Cathy.
Hi, thank you, Tom. Nice meeting you, everyone.
Great to meet you. And for those that don't know, ARO is a content delivery, distributed, decentralized content delivery network, like an edge content delivery network, which as we demand more content and faster, only becomes a more important component of our online lives and worlds. So Cathy, why don't you expand on that very short definition I gave and kind of talk about an edge content delivery and how ARO is addressing that from a DePIN side?
Yes, sure. So as we know, it's all belong to the category of edge cloud. But within edge cloud, there are many things. So the resources we are focusing is on the bandwidth, which we mainly use for content delivery. The use case is streaming, downloading video. The reason we are trying to target this is because it has the biggest usage at this moment. So edge CDN or PCDN is what we are focusing right now for ARO Network.
Great. And so help us understand what that means and how do people participate? Where are you rolling out service? Make that a little bit more tangible.
So as you know, ARO Network is a protocol in the middle. So on the right side, we have consumers, the people who is willing to pay for the service. Who will be the consumers, like enterprise video streaming company? The reason they want to use the service is because it's reduced the latency and also it's reduced the cost. And the people on the left side is the contributor, the resource provider. So for us, we are in the middle. We want to bridge these two parts together. We have the people on the left side contribute via software, via edge hardware. Then we will be able to aggregate their idle bandwidth. And then we have the technology to fulfill the quality requirement for the enterprise. So this is how we see ourselves in the middle to bridge two sides.
And what is the value proposition? You mentioned it's cheaper. Can you help people quantify that, like service levels as well? How do you think about, the big players in this space? I remember from a long time ago, companies like Akamai, that are multi-billion-dollar companies that have been doing this for a very long time. So help understand how the technology has progressed and your guys' solution is able to kind of deliver this. Because I think it used to be only in the hands of the big proprietary companies had the capability of doing this. I think times have changed. And so with hardware developments and software developments, it's now possible for projects like ARO to kind of really compete. But can you explain a little bit about how that is going to work?
So first of all, CDN market is a very big market. And even within the edge cloud itself, it accounts for 60 to 80% of the cloud usage. And if we look at the big company, like let's take TikTok, for example, they are 65% on CDN and 35% on PCDN. It's very simple. If I'm watching a video and my neighbor watching the same video, instead of sending from the same data center to us multiple times, they can just send to a node nearby, which will reduce the latency. And the cost, in terms of cost, right now for PCDN market, it's around 50% cheaper than centralized CDN. The reason is very simple. First, for those companies to build up a data center or purchase those centralized PCDN from ISP, the cost is very high as a commercial CDN. And for us, what we do is we utilize the idle bandwidth on the edge. So what are the idle bandwidth on the edge? For example, I paid for my internet, you paid for your internet, but we are not 100% utilize full time of our network. And especially upload bandwidth, we rarely use it. So for this part of the bandwidth, we consider is a sinking cost. For you, for me, no matter we recontribute to ARO, you have to pay for your internet. So these are the user we target. Then what we do is we will let user to run our software or run our hardware at their home. So when they do not use their network bandwidth fully, we're going to help them to resell or re-aggregate to help them to build up like a node. For example, for those enterprise, they can download their video to the node and use this node to distribute to the neighborhood nearby. So by doing this, we utilize the idle bandwidth that each individual home user already paid for. So this is additional part of rewards that people get. That's why we can sell at half price compared to traditional CDN to like enterprise. And this type of rewards we get, we will use it for ARO, we will use it 90% to distribute to the resource provider.
All right. Well, there was a lot of information there. That's a lot to unpack, like piece by piece here. So first, let's go with how it works on the consumer side and then get to businesses and revenue in that if we can. So on the consumer side, they're sharing bandwidth, grasp that for sure. There's a variety of projects that already use latent or, unused bandwidth from consumers for different things. So that I think is some concept people grasp, but is there also do you just download an API? Not an API, you just download an extension, or do you buy a box that helps store and then deliver this content as well, or is it all desktop, laptop based?
We offer both options. So for the people who know technical, you can just run our software image. So basically you have your laptop, you run it, then you can start to contribute the bandwidth. So zero investment on the hardware, and you can earn rewards from contributing your software or your bandwidth. And then for the people, for example, my grandma, they have an internet at home, but they don't have capability to run software. In this type of case, it's better for me just put a hardware box in their home to help them to contribute the bandwidth. And for us, the hardware is very cheap because we don't want to make money from hardware. So what we want really is people running the hardware, then contribute the bandwidth.
And so how much does the box cost?
And right now we're offering two options. A pure box to contribute PCDN, the market price is $60, which is quite cheap.
Very cheap. Yeah.
So we are not targeting to sell hardware to make money. The reason is we can make money from selling bandwidth. So we aim to get more people to use the hardware, and then we can sell the bandwidth to co-share all those money together with the benefits with the resource providers.
Great. And so then you buy a box or you download an extension, you're selling, you're doing it. And then are you rewarded in ARO tokens, or how does rewards work for that?
Yeah. So at the testnet stage, we're going to use points to reward users. Then they can exchange to ARO token once we launch mainnet. And the economy behind this is every day we're going to release same amount of ARO token linearly. So basically the early people join in, they will compete with less people. It's really makes sense to join early to share the token. And by the time we launch, we aggregate those resources, we will be able to sell to our client, which we already secured. So we have those money, they pay in fiat. We're going to use it 100% to buy the token. So the value going to transfer from our client side to the token side. And 90% of the token is going to be burned. And 10% is going to go to treasury as our protocol revenue.
Listen, that is, the buy burn at a high number is something I'm a big advocate of.
You probably, I wrote a whole report you should on DePIN tokenomics and kind of have a graph of all the different buy burn amounts. And I think the higher it is, the better, because it aligns the project with the token holders, which is exactly what you want. So big fan of that for sure. What is the timing of all this? Because you said I can't tell kind of how far advanced you are. And obviously you're talking about CDN. You have to have a certain amount of scale before that's, I guess, relevant to customers, right?
Yeah, exactly. Let's go back in terms of the project. We have self-funded and developing this already for the past 1.5 years. And our product is ready in terms of Web3. And for the technology we are using, we are talking about orchestrate million level scale of hardware, edge hardware box. So this is not some Web3 companies can just develop within 6 months. So we leverage a lot from our strategic investor and partner from Web2. They are the number one PCDN provider in China. They have already have very mature technology in terms of Web2 aggregate orchestrate million scale of those edge node. So they have been developing this for the past 8 years. It's already running for past like 6 years. So we leverage quite a lot in terms of technology from them. And this is one part. And then for us, what we want to focus is we also have client secured. So for us is we want to build up the supply side. And the supply side, if we want to reach out to each individual home to reach out, it take longer time for us to deploy all our hardware to them. So we have two paths that we are following. The first is we are working with some data center or the mining groups who already have existing infrastructure. They are mining, for example, Fire or altcoin, and then they can also run our software image. So they can contribute because we're collecting different resources. Maybe they are selling computing power to other projects, but what we are collecting is bandwidth. So we are working with some miners, some data centers for them to run our software. Then we will have a base of resources. Then we will take our time to educate users to run our software and also deploy the hardware. Then we can build up a relatively decent scale. Then we can deliver to client because the scale matters a lot, especially for the enterprise. We need to deliver to them. We cannot deliver them if we only have 1,000 users. We have to have a scale to meet the minimum requirement for them. So we do have a deliver date to our client, which is around October. That means we will do our best to build up this supply side hybrid model of data center mining groups and also edge node retail users home. Then we're going to deliver to them. So what we're talking about, really, we're going to launch our mainnet and turn all those into real revenue or income. We're talking about this year Q4. And we only want to launch our token after we actually have real income. We want to prove to the community, to the investor, that our business model is working. We want to have the income from right side, then inject it to our token ecosystem. Then we're going to launch our token. We all know that right now the secondary market liquidity for purely token speculators is really, really limited. So we have to rely on actual liquidity we get from the payment service, the payment we receive, collect from our clients.
I mean, listen, the way I wrote about it, I think you would agree with this, is that when you have a high buy burn, you don't need anyone else to find the token. You don't have to market it. You don't have to go around and pitch it, because your project, if you're generating revenue, you are the source of demand for that token, which is really powerful. And that makes other people find it. And so then you start a virtuous cycle. So I think that's terrific. What scale of revenues? I mean, the numbers, I think what's interesting is when you start talking about Asia, the numbers get so much larger than the people in the West are accustomed to. And so you casually throughout, you want to have 1 million, edge devices at some point, right? That's, a vast amount. I think Helium at one point touched on that in terms of routers, and they've fallen down way below that right now. But help us understand, that is a goal. Great. What do you think what are revenue things numbers that make you happy by the end of the year, just to give some sense of scale for people?
Yes, sure. So let me take an example of our Web2 strategy partner in China. They're running 1.5 million nodes right now in China. They're making roughly 1 billion Chinese yuan per year. And if we look at outside of China, the market is huge. If we take TikTok only, TikTok annually spend 3 billion on CDN service. And 35% they are on PCDN. That means from TikTok, one of the top company only, the market size we can imagine is already $1 billion US dollar. That is just one player in the market. There are still like Instagram, YouTube, a lot of those type of companies. So the market is big enough to host enough players, and also is sufficient for a company to grow like bigger. And for us, what we want to do is we want to take a step at a time. So for us, we want to deliver the first batch. Then because the PCDN is very different from like other technology, it takes a lot of time to orchestrate and adjust and improve our integration and orchestration. So it's need time to perfect the technology. So we were thinking we're going to like slow gradually ramping up. So for us, for this year, maybe it's too soon. It's already middle of the year. But for us, what we are thinking is that at the decent stage, probably by next year, we could reach maybe like above $10 million annual revenue. This is at least is our goal. And our goal for the project is we really want to build it into $1 billion valuation project.
Right. Well, if you start off at $10 million and you're growing quickly, you can get there. That's really interesting. And are the boxes being sold now, or are the boxes they're coming soon, or what's the status of the boxes?
The box is ready, and we already have people testing that. So right now we have a pioneer program we're running. We basically offer a chance for people who can earn a free device. You can run it at home, and we're gonna open our pre-sale at middle or end of June. So the hardware is ready. We're testing our logistics and also let a smaller group of people to test. If anybody like from your audience interested to join our pioneer program, they can go to our website, just apply. We will like select and give away 100 free devices.
And is that geography specific, or is it all over the world? Is it mainly in Asia? Where are you focused there?
A very good question. For us, very honest, we are right now for the hardware, it's really Southeast Asia focus at this stage. It's very simple because we have the client secured from Southeast Asia who willing to pay for this PCDN service, and we do not have client yet secured from, for example, Europe or US. So that means if we deploy all those hardware to those regions right now, that means we're going to dilute the revenue.
Yeah, your reward pool. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So right now, what we want to do is for the hardware, we want to more on the Southeast Asia focus, but for the software, and also we're going to launch a Chrome extension, similar like Grass, but for those, we will open to global users, because we still want to include them in the very early stage, because early stage, it will have a lot of benefit to join early, to mine early, even though the rewards compared to the hardware, the software will be, the efficiency going to be lower, because we don't want to dilute too much of the rewards pool.
Right. And so on the reward pool, you mentioned this, or you touched on it earlier. If I use a box versus I use my laptop, desktop, is the reward the same, or is the reward different depending on what device I use?
No, it's not related to the device itself. It's more on the bandwidth. For example, if your home, like my home, I'm having 10 Gbps bandwidth. That means if 100% utilize 100% uptime, I can earn maybe $1,000 to $1,500 per month. So if I'm just running it, but for the hardware, for example, if my home got this, for the hardware right now, we have different tiers. The entry tier we offer is for 100 Mbps hardware. That means the maximum it can contribute is 100 Mbps. At my home, it not make sense I run 100 piece of the hardware. So most likely I'm going to run like a software. So it's not related to the software or hardware. Software can be as efficiency as hardware. Hardware is very simple for user. Just plug it in. That's it. It's very simple.
Gotcha. Interesting. Okay. So if you don't need the hardware, you also can scale much faster, you would think. Well, that is great to hear that and you have customers ready to go. I think you are the first DePIN project I've spoken to that is working on supply, not demand. And I think that is very unusual, right? I think that has to do with, I think, the existing relationships of your, larger parent company, I guess, owner. Am I right that you're not disclosing the name of that company?
They're not the mother company. They are more like our strategic investor and partners from Web2. They are Nasdaq listed company. So the relationship is they invested in us and they support us in terms of technology or also client side, but they don't own us.
Okay, and do they have a name?
Yes. Their Nasdaq ticker is XNET.
XNET. Okay, great. Well, that's great to have a strategic investor of that scale. Is also something that's very unusual. I don't know that, right? Most DePINs are started off by, founders with an idea and they bootstrap and raise venture. And so this is effectively a corporate funded and backed DePIN, which is something we haven't seen before, because you think of DePINs as competing with those businesses usually. And it sounds like this business is funding you to go target markets they're not in yet. Is that right?
Correct. We are not competing with Web2 companies. We are not competing with AWS. We just like supplemental to them. We're reducing some cost for people, and even for
you'll compete with Web2 like Akamai and those guys.
The market is big enough for a lot of players.
Yeah, but you're still competing.
In a sense, yes, but we think we are not threatened to them. So what we do is we really give our rewards to the users who contribute 90%. So I think that is our advantage. We could really scale fast and we could really become decentralized and resilient.
Oh, not going to argue with you on any of that. It is just, but you are competing with the centralized companies, which is fine. And I think that's terrific, but that's just the reality of it. Which is good for everybody. Well, maybe not good for them. We'll see. Well, and let's back up for a second, because I think the origin story of this is interesting because it's different than most. But what's your background, Cathy? How did you end up in this industry? How did you end up as COO here? What's your background here?
Yes, sure. I was in the space from 2016, more on the trading. I have been through a lot of like ICO era. Then on 2017, I started full-time joining the industry. I was working on centralized exchange SEX, basically the SEX from China. They want to rebrand and move out of China. During 2017 period, there are a lot of Chinese companies want to move outside of China because I'm Chinese originally. And so I was helping to build 2 centralized exchange from 0 to 1 and also took them outside of China and scale up. So they were pretty decent to scale until like a few years ago. So I was centralized exchange background. So the last exchange, I was the CEO of the exchange. And then after that...
Which exchange was that?
Okay, so the first exchange I was working, it called DigiFinex. They are still existing Tier 2 exchange. And the second exchange I was working, I was a director of ZB Group, and I was the CEO of the mining pool called BW Pool. So they have an exchange called BW.com, BW Exchange. I was the CEO there until 2020. Then I moved back to China during COVID. Then I joined Casper Labs as the managing director of China for Casper Labs. Helped them to launch during 2021. We did the coin list sale and the launching. We got a lot of Chinese users there. So after that, I accelerated or advised a few projects, especially on China go-to-market side and also exchange-related things because my background from exchange. And then 2023, I was in Rocktree Capital, leading investment from Asia and also the post-investment acceleration until last year.
And then what happened last year?
I joined Enrich. How do I join Enrich? Enrich, we have four.
Wait, and you mean ARO?
Oh, yes, sorry. ARO. Yes, we have four co-founders. So one of the co-founder called Alex, he's investor, VC, traditional VC background. About 8-9 years ago, he invested in the Web2 partners, like group chairman's previous company. So that is the relationship started. And we have another co-founder called Alex Yang. So the two co-founders, they co-invested in a lot of deals. This is how do they get to know each other. Then me and one of the Alex, we together worked in other deals like Casper. And then our CTO, Leo, he was the co-founder and the CTO of Cross Network. They were the biggest debt on Polkadot ecosystem last cycle. So Alex was the investor of Cross Network. So it's end up four of us together. We really want to do this business because our Web2 partners, they really want to do this business, but they don't know Web3. And they don't know anything outside of China. And the four of us had this relationship and trust with the Web2 partner. And four of us also have not only trust, friendship, but also we have been working together, have really successful case study before. So then we stick together, all the different background together. Then we assemble this team together.
So XNET, the partner he said, hey, we want to do this. And then knew a couple of the guys, they knew you. And the four of you said, this is a great, great deal because we effectively have the intellectual property and backing of a business and we have the upside of a startup, right? So that is a great great opportunity to go try to build something with an existing base, right? I mean, that sounds like a great setup.
Yes.
And are all you based in Singapore or where's the rest of the team? Where's the team generally?
Yes. So I'm based in Singapore. We have the other team members based in Hong Kong and Shanghai, and also one of the co-founder, he's moving to Bay Area as well.
Actually, well, then that brings up another question actually, which is, DePINs are very, in my experience, very US and European. And there's clearly a couple in Asia that I'm familiar with. There's some, electric charging, one or two that I think I know. And there's obviously, some decentralized compute that is in Asia as well, right? But it's a handful of projects given the scale of Asia and given the amount of hardware that Asia creates for DePINs. Are there others you know of, or am I just out of the loop on Asia DePINs, or how do you think about that region vis-a-vis kind of DePIN founding?
I think it's not just DePIN. So Asia, we all know it for its big market, big population, big market. But why, especially for China, there are not a lot of company or successful company come out is because a lot of times people are more focused on making money fast. That means they don't want to invest in something just innovative and they don't see a way to monetize that. So I think that is one of the reasons. It's just not DePIN, I think overall. So people want to work on something DeFi. It's come fast, make money fast, scale fast. DePIN is slow. But DePIN, if you really deploy, is actually reach real world to have real income. So, but people does not have the patience because if you want to reach real income from real world, it takes time, the technology, the service level, right? So this takes time. So for us, why we want to do that is we really want to build something. DePIN is supposed to be one of the sector really have income, has big project. But what we feel is that even a lot of big projects, they have big supply side. But because the service side, client side, they don't really have good client. So there is no income coming into the token, the supply, the whole do flywheel thing. So that is something we feel we have the good chance. We really want to do that. And we have the patience to go one step at a time.
Listen, what you said is actually true, and I hadn't thought about it that way. But I guess you're right, which is the DePIN is more of a get rich slow concept, and I think there's plenty of founders that find it to be a lot slower than they thought it was going to be. And don't forget, the early ones were not that way, right? Helium went like this, and Filecoin went like this, and after those kind of pumps in the last cycle, everything else is much slower. But if you compare, the funny thing is, if you talk to founders who come from the traditional Web 2 world, they see DePIN as super fast versus traditional corporate world. But if you talk to the crypto guys and you talk to the, DeFi people, DePIN is the slow bit, right? So it depends kind of your lens as to what is fast or slow, without a doubt, I think.
Yes.
And how big is, just out of curiosity, to help us understand, like, how big is the team?
Right now we have 8 people full time. On 8 full time technicians, including our CTO, and also including the chief architect from XNET. So we have 8 full-time technicians. We have also a few part-time technicians get from Web2 supporting us. And full-time non-technical people, we have 4. So full-time team has 12, and we still have another 5 people on part-time. They are on, for example, admin, operation, BD. And we just built, just this week, we recruited 2 like ecosystem partner. So our part-time team already increased to 7.
I mean, listen, that's reasonable, but that's a pretty small number if you're going to be generating 10 million revenue. And you would think, and listen, I met Adam, was obviously doing some great stuff on the BD side, without a doubt. But there's I'm surprised the team isn't bigger given your ambitions. But I guess as you are scaling, that will continue to grow.
Yeah, we will scale up the team size for sure. The reason we have a small team is, as mentioned, we were self-funded until I haven't drawn a penny of salary yet from my company.
Really?
So,
I thought XNET wrote a check to get it going. Didn't XNET fund it?
we started our fundraising from December last year, and we just closed our fundraising by April. So we have the money, but as the founders, we have not yet drawn any salary. As mentioned before, we start fundraising, we actually all self-funded.
Or no, interesting. Well, that's great to do, to see that, that commitment to it, which is really important, and you guys have the ability to do that. That's awesome. Well, tell us, are there other, you obviously have a variety of experience in the crypto world, and having seen exchanges and Casper, and, been that's more experience in crypto, frankly, than a lot of DePIN founders, which tend to come from industry. And so that is interesting. Anything you've learned from, from your seat at the exchange in Casper? It sounds like one of those takeaways obviously was, hey, I can't rely on liquidity in the market. We have to make our own. And that's why you've got this 90% buy burn, right? That seems to be the clear takeaway from your previous experience. Is that right?
Yeah, yes. So I think having seen the same word from different angles, as exchange, as project, as investor, really learned a lot of things. I think discipline, this is very important. So I think we are really disciplined team, and if you want to make a good business, or you want to make money fast, if we want to make money fast, I'm not going to be here doing this relatively slow project. And so we have the discipline as a team, and we believe what we do. And the second thing is truly share the profit, truly decentralized. And I think a lot of projects, they make money, but they don't share they don't really actually inject the revenue into the ecosystem. And for the people who want to share the rewards, but they don't have the real world income. So for us, we have the income and we have the discipline to share it. We want to build a bigger and longer term company for us. So this is what we want.
You're gonna have the revenue. You don't have it yet.
We don't
You're
have it yet.
highly confident it's coming, but you're highly confident in getting it.
Yes. Sorry.
Really, yeah, but that is great, and I think that's all true. But that's so it's be fair and generous with your ecosystem, right? Which is terms of revenue stuff. Be focused on BD revenue, as also don't rely on the market to bail you out from a token valuation liquidity perspective. You have to kind of control that yourself. And I guess any lesson you learned back in those exchanges at 20 is 10 times more true now when you have 14 million coins out there, right? So any of those lessons are probably even more the case now, I would think.
Yeah. And also don't make mistakes. A lot of times the project make mistakes. So for example,
I wish someone that told me that. Don't make mistakes.
Yeah.
Are there any DePIN projects out there that you admire, you pay attention to, or you think are doing interesting things?
Yeah, a lot. For example, Grass, I think they're doing very well in getting the supply side and also getting revenue, even though they didn't really disclose, but a lot of research shows that they do have revenue. So I do think the business model works.
They're doing something. It's a little in the way I phrase it. You guys have a superior value proposition to your centralized competitors. It sounds like, right? You're cheaper, and maybe even more performant. Grass offers something that isn't even possible from a centralized competitor. Like there's no one to compete with them. And so that is another level of DePIN. It's one thing to offer a better product like you. They're offering product that no one can even do unless you're decentralized. So I think that's a whole nother kind of level. But you did hit on something which I think is interesting, which is the revenue verification. And I think the whole industry benefit by showing revenue on chain, right? And that verification, like no one's audited, right? No one's filing financials with the SEC. And so you have to trust. And here, the funny thing is, we're in a decentralized world where it's all about trustlessness. Now we have to trust that these groups have revenue. And so if you do 90% by burn, that is the clearest way that people can trust the revenue you have, because here's this money that bought this amount of tokens. They can't be lying by much because all this stuff was burned at this value. And so I know Grass hasn't gotten to that level yet, and they're doing episodic burns. And so I think that will come soon, I hope. But I am worried, as I'm sure you are, that the potential for revenue exaggerations and misleading is very high, and only on-chain by burn is the only way you're going to develop trust and sure that is the revenue is validated. I think that's probably some of the stuff you're thinking about, right?
Yes, exactly.
Really interesting. Well, tell how do people find and follow you and ARO? How do they sign up for your Pioneer program, assuming they're in Southeast Asia, and buy a box? Like, how do people get involved here?
So right now we do see interest. We go and meet the people, and we see there are people interested to get into our Pioneer program. So for us, because we are giving it away for free, we really want people to understand our vision, to understand what we are doing before we actually hand over the hardware box. And we do see more interest because we have not yet do any marketing. So, but we do see some interest globally, people applying for the Pioneer program. So for us, for Pioneer program, we're still going to include global audience just for them to run it, to test it, to know this thing is coming. But right now, we are not offering the hardware to outside of Nation.
But where do people sign up? How do they get involved?
They can just go to our website. They can just click there
Which is
join.
what? ARO?
Yeah, ARO.network.
ARO.network. Okay, great. And how do they follow you? What are you on X, on TikTok? Or what platforms, social platforms are you focused on?
They can just follow our Twitter, our X, the company X.
Okay, fantastic. Well, listen, I'm excited by the ambition, I'm excited by the scale. So it's a critical service that has only become more important. So it sounds like you guys are on the cusp of scaling significantly, and look forward to having you back on when you're got revenue humming and there is the buy burn is happening, and we can talk about the million boxes or downloads you guys have sold or have uploaded, right?
Yeah, great. Thank you, Tom.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for being on.
Thank you, Tom.
DePIN Podcast, the place where we explore real-world use cases unlocked by crypto. That's all for today. Thanks for watching to the end. If you enjoyed this episode, please help us grow. Add a like, add a comment. And of course, if you have anyone you think we should be talking to or have on this podcast, either leave a comment there or reach out. But thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you.